Hey guys, welcome back to another Virgo Girl recommendation. And today's recommendation is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, this movie, I have to be honest with you, it took me some time to get to a point where I understood how good this movie was. So let me start off by saying that initially I did not get it. The reason why I didn't get it was because one, it was so many storylines. The basically the topics, I wasn't really familiar with them. And to put it, just to make things a little bit easier to understand, a lot of these topics in the movie, a lot of the content was based on things that occurred back in I believe it was like the 60s and the 50s. So it was really like older things that had happened in the past. And although they were like famous people or infamous, shall I say, some of them, and some of them were famous and things like that. It was just like the topic. I just wasn't really familiar with them, and I just wasn't. I didn't get it. I just did not get it. However, this is how many times it took for me to get it. I watched this movie 3 times, and to be honest with you, the reason why I gave it so many chances is because I just felt like how is this not a great movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt? And then let's throw in Margot Robbie as well. So I'm thinking like it has the potential to be amazing just based on who's in the movie. So it didn't matter. I watched it. I didn't get it. I didn't like it. I was just like, what is this? It went over my head, if you will. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Sometimes guys, it's not the movie. Sometimes it's you. Now, sometimes it is the movie. Sometimes the movie just not good. But sometimes, be patient with some movies, especially if you feel like it's an actor that you respect, it's a director that you respect, things like that, because I like Tarantino a lot. So I'm thinking like, let me give this movie another chance. Now, not saying that it's impossible for me to dislike a movie with Leo and, Tarantino, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, I just felt like I'm missing something. I kept feeling that way. And I was. So basically, the movie is funny for starters. It's really, really funny. So I think I missed all the funny parts because I was so busy trying to understand the movie. I missed out on so much of the funny parts. So by the time I got to the third time watching it, I appreciated all the funny parts. I appreciated the directing. I appreciated the acting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because by that point, I kind of started to get it, and things just started to make more sense to me. I did a little research. Anyway, so one thing about this movie is that it's paying homage to, old Hollywood and things like that. So that part I love. And I love that Tarantino is a person who really, really seems to love, the city of Los Angeles. He incorporates Los Angeles in his movies, and I feel he respects the city for what it's worth. And I can totally appreciate that because as a Los Angeles resident myself, I love Los Angeles, and I think it has so much to offer. I think that like any other big city, there are things that aren't perfect. But Los Angeles is an amazing city with so much to offer by way of scenery, by way of entertainment, just by way of just cultures, there's just so much here. And I feel like so many people don't even tip, even experience even a tiny portion of it when they're coming to visit, or if they live in a certain area and they don't venture out. You're missing so much. This city has so much to offer. It's almost like 12 cities in one, because there's so many different things, so many different cultures, so many different types of neighborhoods. I've lived in 3 neighborhoods in this city, and I'm telling you, it's a different world a complete different world, like each neighborhood that I've lived in. And it gives you such a different experience. So, and it's funny, when people say certain things about Los Angeles, I immediately think you're in the wrong neighborhood, or I can just about picture what neighborhood they probably lived in. The reason why they didn't like the city. Once you get to a neighborhood that you like in Los Angeles, and you find your, like a group of people that you enjoy and you can actually do things with and explore the city with, it's just so amazing. But anyway, moving on. Back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So this movie came out, and Brad Pitt, of course, at this time was going through a lot. As far as his life, he was going through a bitter breakup with his wife, Angelina Jolie. And she was saying some wild things about him, and it wasn't looking good. And say what you will, Brad Pitt is, America's, good old boy. He's America's, I don't want to say America's sweetheart. Is that for the ladies, or can that be used? But I'm not sure. But anyway, he is like the equivalent of like America's sweetheart, whatever, that means. Like America's, the golden boy. That's the word I'm looking for. He's like the golden boy. He is exactly what, like the American film industry sees as perfection, if you will. And he is a huge star. He's an A-list star. And boom, all of a sudden, he has all these kids with Angelina Jolie, and then it's like they're breaking up, and it's not pretty. It's not a pretty breakup. But in the midst of all this, we have this film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that comes out, and Brad Pitt, seemingly is addressing things even, about himself. He comes out and admits that he was a drug user. He, abused alcohol. And, he was being transparent. And I don't follow Brad Pitt like really super, super closely to remember if he said it or was it his publicist or someone like that. But he did also come out and say that it was said that he didn't do anything like as far as abuse wise to his, wife or children. That just wasn't the person that he was. However, Angelina had a different story, and then so did, at least one of her kids came out, the older one, and he was not feeling Brad. Let's just put it like that. And to this day, he still has not spoken to Brad. Allegedly, it's what the talk of the town is. And I think that's pretty true. I think that's pretty accurate. I don't think he's spoken to Brad. And, anyway, so all that was going on. It didn't look good. And Brad, seemingly came out and tried to clear up his name and tried to kind of clean up his image a bit, which is weird for Brad Pitt because Brad Pitt never had an image to clean up, I mean, like I said, I don't follow Brad Pitt like super closely, but I've never heard of anything big, happening by way of Brad Pitt, like where he was, I don't know, just like out there doing crazy stuff to people or being, like violent or anything like that. So it was really, this whole thing was a shocker. So he came out and he did his little PR stuff. Angelina Jolie was still in the background. And then to give you some backstory, as I said about Brad Pitt being the golden boy, Angelina Jolie was kind of like not that when it comes to her image. Angelina was like the wild child. She was the one with the knives and, just wild and, just kind of just different, just had a kind of a different type of image than Brad Pitt. Not the like, and Brad Pitt was kind of like, like the good old American guy from what was the Midwest, just like just a good old boy, a nice guy, that's what he was like portrayed as, and that's what they kind of like displayed him being, and that's what he portrayed himself as. So that's what we saw. And he's dated some pretty high profile women. Like, Gwyneth Paltrow, the girl from Jennifer Aniston. I almost said the lady from Friends, but Jennifer Aniston was his wife. And none of these people, and there's been others, but I'm not going to name everybody. But none of these people, no one has ever said anything about Brad. Now I don't know if he had them under NDAs. I don't know. I don't know. But they seem to not just be silent about him, but they seem to just be okay with him. Even Jennifer Aniston seemed to be okay with him after all this happened, because she came out and was kind of like talking to him and, just being kind of supportive, if you will, after his breakup with Angelina Jolie. So it wasn't like she was distancing herself from him. She was like coming out for the first time. You saw them kind of together talking, all this stuff. And although they could have been doing this in the past, but it was just more shocking because of her appearance after Brad and Angelina broke up. So it's kind of like, what's going on here? So it kind of made you think, like, what in the world is going on? And I think we'll never know, the full truth. I mean, how can we? Angelina, she has her side, Brad has his side, and then the kids have their side of things. But we weren't there, so we don't know. And here's my thing. I like Angelina Jolie. I really do. I'm an Angelina Jolie fan, especially a fan of her older stuff and basically how she was back in the day. I love that wild spirit. I just loved how she was, like back in the day. And for me, being a young person and seeing Angelina just be so free, it was just something that I really admired, just to be able to just be yourself and be free without caring what other people thought, and just being different from, the norm. I really loved that. I loved her spirit and her openness and how she was, especially back in like the 2000s and the late 90s. She was really something, I'm telling you. And that's not to take away from who she is today. But what I'm saying is, when she really caught my attention was at that time. And, today it's totally different because she's a mother, she's older, she's, more settled down. She's definitely not going to be doing what she was doing, like back in those days. But just to sum it up, I thought it was really just kind of a tough thing, because you have two people who are such huge stars to be going through this. It was just very bizarre. It was just a lot to take in. And I think people were kind of split on, what to even believe, what to think, what to do. Do we still support these people? Do we not support? Like, what do you do in this situation? I have to be honest with you. Although Brad came out, he did his little kind of like PR kind of thing, a little bit. He was, for the most part, kind of silent and kind of went on with his life. I think sometimes silence is golden, and I think he did the right thing by not saying too much. So I feel like Brad handled it, the best way he could. And as for Angelina, I think because she doesn't get that same treatment, maybe like she's just like an innocent person. I feel that she felt the need to kind of come out more, and it felt like there should be more said on her side, because she actually felt like she was a victim. So she wanted to be made known that, hey, this guy isn't this little perfect, innocent, choir boy. This is what happened, and I am a victim here. So because she was a victim, I felt that she was speaking out more. And when you have someone speaking out and saying those types of things about you, it's kind of hard to, I guess, decide what to do. Like, do you come out and say something, or do you just be quiet? Because if you start saying too much and that person's a victim, it does kind of look like, well, are you coming after the victim kind of thing? But at the same time, you have to defend yourself. So it was just a tough situation all around. But at any rate, back to the movie. Brad Pitt, he won an Oscar. So obviously Hollywood and all the people, in that sector didn't give a damn about anything that had happened or what was going on with the, private life, because they did give him that Oscar. So he ended up winning an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor on the movie. And, here's my thing. I don't feel like Brad outdid Leo. And I just really don't. I think the Oscar should have went to Leo, if you ask me. because Leo, oh my God, did you see like the acting that he did in that movie? Especially towards the end? Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like all Brad did was take his shirt off and they were like, okay, let's give it to Brad kind of thing, you know? And Brad took his shirt off and smiled and it's like, okay, he's hot. Let's give it to him. So anyway, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. He did more than that. He did more than that, of course. But I just felt like Brad did do a good job in the movie and he played his role and everything. But Leo, I felt, did a better job. And I felt that Leo's acting was more, I want to say believable, because Brad was almost just like playing himself. He was just playing like a handsome, laid back guy, you know, that was just really chill. And yeah, but anyway, moving on from that. Let's talk about the movie. Sorry, that was a very long intro, but I feel like I just kind of felt like talking to you guys about a little bit about the ins and outs of this movie and why it probably took me some time to get into it. And I'm wondering if this impacted other people. Maybe not, you know, maybe not. Maybe other people just saw it and loved it at the first take, because the movie did well. Don't get me wrong. This movie did very well, and which, you know, and rightfully so, rightfully so. But anyway, um, the production, perfect, you know, absolutely perfect. I felt like it was back in the day, every perfect, the costumes, all that part of it was so well done. And that's why in the beginning I kind of talked about Tarantino's apparent appreciation for the city of Los Angeles. I love that he went out to the valley and kind of showed what it looked like, because of course it doesn't look like that now. But and then how he had, you know, Hollywood Boulevard and just everything that he showed in the movie, the cars, you know, how the buildings look, the houses, and just everything. I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. So that part, I perfect. The directing, amazing. Just, of course, it's Tarantino, so of course the directing is going to be good. But it was just the fact that the chemistry between Brad and Leo, because it was almost like they were the only two people there at some points. But of course, there were other people sprinkled in, a lot of people sprinkled in, just popping in and out. And there were other storylines, but those were like small bits and pieces. The two main characters are Leo and Brad. If you like Leo and Brad, you're going to see a lot of them. And the movie, it centers around those two people. And then it's almost like life. That's what it reminded me of, because you know how you live your life with your people in your bubble, and then there's so much stuff going on in the world. There's all these events happening, all these disasters, you know, other events happening, you know, across over on the other side of town, you know, things like that. That's kind of what it reminded me of, because you had Margot Robbie. She was, you know, living her life, seeing, you know, she was an actress from back in the day, and you know, you kind of saw her living her life and what her life looked like and the issues that she had to deal with in her life. And then you had the young lady, I can't remember what her name is, escaping me right now, but you had the other young lady, the one that was in she was actually in Brad Pitt's car and she had her shoes off. Her mom is a famous actress as well. I'm going to think of her name in a minute, but I'm going to move on. But anyway, so they had her, and they were, I'm trying to think, losing my, I'm losing my train of thought here, because there's so much on my mind when I'm thinking of this movie. But anyway, so they had I believe it was the Manson, where they were. I think it was the Manson. I think it was like Charles Manson. It was his, like, they were staying like at his house. I'm trying to say it in a way that I don't ruin it for you guys too, for those of you who haven't seen the movie. But anyway, it's been out so long, I'm sure you may be at least a little familiar. But so they had this girl, and she was always outside on Hollywood Boulevard, which kind of, her name was Pussycat in the movie, and her name is Margaret Qualley. Side note on Margaret Qualley, I hope I'm saying her name right, but I like her. I've done another video recommendation on her. The movie was called The Maid, and she plays in several movies. I like her acting, and I think she's a cool little actress. But anyway, she was in there, and she had a small part as far as the whole movie goes, but her part was impactful too. It just showed how to me, what it was showing was like the temptations of Los Angeles, the temptations of Hollywood, and how you have to really be careful on how you handle those types of things, and how they're always just right there, right around the corner waiting for you, and how close you get to messing up, but how you have to make a quick decision to go left or to go right. So yeah, I felt like she was symbolic of a lot of the things that some people experience in especially the entertainment industry, like the dangling the candy in front of a baby kind of thing. Are you going to take it or not? And how tempting it may be for some people. Then this movie, not only does it have, okay, so it has these celebrity pop-ins like Dakota Fanning, it had Luke Perry, and it's just like, what? Al Pacino. So those people were popping in to the movie, and you're just like, what? And so I think that's why initially I was so thrown off when I first watched this movie. Like I told you, I didn't like it in the beginning because I'm like, what does this person have to do with this and this and this and this? Like, it was just a lot going on. So once I realized that everything kind of like tied together, and everything kind of like was working, everything was there for a purpose, and everything that those people were doing was necessary to make this film, what it was. It's like I enjoyed it so much more. I was wanting it to be just a kind of like straight, easy to understand, simple thing. But then I watched Pulp Fiction, and I loved that from the first moment I saw it, and I've seen it a million times, and that had a million storylines. So I have to remember like Tarantino's style. I think like I forgot how kind of like his style is in some of his movies. And that's just his style. And it's amazing. Like I said, Pulp Fiction, it had all those storylines, and every storyline was so important, and they all tied together. And yeah, I love the way his style. But for some reason on this particular movie, I just couldn't get into his style on the way he did this movie until after watching it like 3 times. But moving on. So when it comes to Leo, Kurt Russell was also in the movie. Yes. Big names. Bruce Dern. Big names were in this movie. Tim Roth. I can go on. But yeah, so anyways, let me go back to Leo. So Leo, he was the washed up actor in the movie, and, just trying to get his footing back. And, he didn't really, he didn't really have the most confidence, if you will. And he had Brad here, who seemed to be the most confident man in the world. He seemed to have not a care in the world kind of thing. And you had Leo, who played this character. Then this is why I just felt like Leo should have got the Oscar. He was nominated, but he should have won, in my opinion. But Leo was just worried about every little thing. You could just tell his expressions just showed a person in distraught. He seemed like he had anxiety. He was worried, and then you have Brad, who just comes in cool as a cucumber, just not worried about anything. And it's just a really good movie. And it's funny because I wanted to recommend this movie, and then I thought to myself, how do I go about recommending it? Because I can't put my finger on how to tell you what it's about, if you will. And I can tell you that it's about a washed up actor trying to, kind of stay relevant. And then he has a stunt double who is Brad Pitt, who is just seemed to not have a care in the world and living this easygoing life. But that doesn't do it justice, if you will. This is just the type of movie that I'm going to tell you, just trust me and watch it, because it's amazing. Because like anything I say is kind of like a spoiler, if you will. And you guys know I don't like to do spoilers, because this is a recommendation channel, and I'm recommending the movie to you. But yeah, it's really a great movie. We have the aspects of it to me that Tarantino, I feel like he kind of like took simple little parts from some of his other movies and kind of incorporated it into this movie, it seemed, because I just noticed a few things that just kind of reminded me of, a couple of his other movies. It just put me in the mind of Inglourious Bastards, and then just how he did like the different, storylines, the way he kind of broke those storylines out. It kind of reminded me of Pulp Fiction just a little bit, and so on and so on. And rightfully so. I mean, he is the person who did those movies. So of course, you know, he's going to have a certain style. But I do feel that Tarantino is very diverse. I feel that he gives us excellent work. And I feel like every one of his movies that I've watched are different. They're different, but I can kind of tell that it's Tarantino just by the style, but his movies are very different. So I don't want to come off as saying that anything but that, because I think he does an amazing job with keeping the content fresh and different. But anyway, so basically with this movie, as you guys can see, I had a lot to say. And this is one of my longer videos just because I'm really surprised at how long it took me to grasp and enjoy the movie. Comment below. Let me know if you guys, if you've seen this movie, did you like it right away? Were you like me and had to kind of like watch it a few times, or were you just into it right away? I'm curious to know. And also, what was your favorite part of this movie? Comment below and let me know. Did you see it as Tarantino's best movie? Or do you have a favorite Tarantino movie? If so, comment below as to what's your favorite movie. You guys, I loved Pulp Fiction so much. I mean, all the one-liners, just, man, I think I'm going to go with Pulp Fiction as my favorite Tarantino movie. It was just so good. It's just, oh my God, it's a classic. And just with friends, we repeated the lines of that movie so many times. And yeah, I really love that movie, Pulp Fiction. And along with a lot of other Tarantino movies, I just like Tarantino, period. But if I have to pick a favorite, I think I'm going to go with Pulp Fiction. Anyway, guys, it was nice sitting back, going over the things about this movie and a little bit. I didn't really want to do too much just in case you haven't seen it. This is one of those movies that is really good to watch it without having spoilers. I mean, as with every movie to me, I'm just a firm believer in people should be able to watch a movie without spoilers if they can. Some people like spoilers, but I think you should just watch it with a clear mind, go in and watch it. So that way you can form your own opinion. You can be surprised by things and you can ultimately enjoy the movie more. But I'm going to close this up, guys. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, peace.